The first time Adrian Vale saw Princess Lyriel of the Aestra Dominion, she was standing beneath a dying star. Not literally beneath it, of course. The star burned on the panoramic display of the Galactic Assembly Chamber, its red light spilling across polished obsidian floors. But the way she stood, tall, silver-skinned, luminous eyes steady as collapsing suns, made it seem as though even stellar death was simply background scenery to her existence. Adrian had not meant to stare. He was only a junior diplomatic attaché from Earth, freshly transferred to the assembly station orbiting the neutral world of Carthene. Humanity had been part of the galactic community for barely 12 years. 12 awkward, scrutinized years. The Aestra Dominion, by contrast, had ruled 3 spiral arms for millennia. And Princess Lyriel was its future empress. She was not what he expected. There were no extravagant crowns or trailing robes. Instead, her attire shimmered like woven starlight, subtle but commanding. The Aestra were tall, ethereal beings whose skin carried faint constellations beneath the surface, bioluminescent veins mapping their ancestry in glowing threads. When she turned slightly, those lights shifted like galaxies in motion. Adrian swallowed. Earth had sent him because he was fluent in Dominion Standard and possessed what his superiors called disarming sincerity. In truth, he was simply honest to a fault. He didn't belong among beings who had lived 5 centuries or commanded fleets capable of shattering moons. But he tried. During the recess break, he stood near a crystalline balcony overlooking Carthene's violet oceans. He was alone, or so he thought. "She frightens you." The voice was smooth as flowing water. Adrian turned and nearly forgot how to breathe. Princess Lyriel stood beside him, close enough that he could see faint patterns in her luminous skin. He cleared his throat. Not frightens. Intimidates. Her eyes, liquid silver with faint starbursts in their centers, studied him. Humans are rarely honest in assembly halls. "We're new," he said softly. "Still learning." "And what do you see when you look at me, human?" The question felt less like curiosity and more like examination. He should have given a diplomatic answer. Instead, he said, "Someone carrying the weight of entire constellations." Something flickered across her expression. Surprise, perhaps. "And that does not frighten you?" "It makes me wonder," he admitted, "what it would be like to stand beside someone like that." Silence stretched between them, filled only by the hum of distant starships. She tilted her head. "Beside?" "Metaphorically," he said quickly, heat rising to his face. "I mean support. Partnership." Her luminous gaze did not waver. "In Aestra culture," she said slowly, "to speak of standing beside one who carries the stars is a vow of union." His stomach dropped. "I didn't mean..." But she had already turned away, and the faintest trace of starlight shimmered brighter beneath her skin. The incident might have ended there. It should have. Instead, 3 days later, the Dominion formally announced a diplomatic proposal. The human delegate chamber erupted into chaos. "You proposed to her?" Ambassador Keen hissed, pacing. "I did not propose." Adrian insisted. "I made a metaphor. In their culture, metaphor and vow share the same linguistic root." "I didn't know that." "You're a diplomat, Vale." Before Adrian could defend himself further, a Dominion envoy entered the chamber. Tall, radiant, impossibly calm. "The Princess Lyriel has accepted the Humans' Declaration," the envoy stated. "Accepted." Keen sputtered. The vow of standing beside her beneath the stars. Adrian felt the blood drain from his face. "This is a mistake." The envoy's luminous eyes settled on him. "The princess does not make mistakes." The private audience chamber was vast and dim, lit only by suspended orbs of starlight. Lyriel stood at its center. You misunderstand, Adrian said immediately. I never intended. You spoke from the heart, she interrupted. That doesn't mean I meant marriage. In Aestra law, it does. He ran a hand through his hair. This could destabilize both our governments. Yes. Her calm acceptance unsettled him more than outrage would have. Then why agree? He asked quietly. For the first time, something vulnerable passed across her features. Because no one has ever spoken to me without calculation. The words landed heavily. You are a princess, he said gently. I am a symbol, she corrected. A tool of alliances. A vessel for dynasty. And I'm not. Adrian gave a humorless laugh. Earth would happily parade me as the man who married an empress. She stepped closer. But you did not speak as a diplomat. He held her gaze. I spoke as a man who saw someone tired. The chamber seemed to still around them. You are reckless, she said softly. Probably. And you would undo your vow. He hesitated. If he said yes, this would end. If he said no, he would bind himself to a future he barely understood. He looked at her, not as an alien princess, not as a political entity, but as someone who had never been offered a choice. I would only undo it, he said carefully, if you wish it undone. The silence that followed felt eternal. Then slowly she stepped forward. I accept, she said, not as a diplomat, not as a princess, but as herself. The galaxy did not take the news calmly. Dominion hardliners accused Lyriel of weakening their bloodline. Human skeptics called it manipulation. Protests flared across 3 systems. And in the shadows, enemies moved. Adrian was escorted to the Dominion capital world of Aestra Prime, a planet of floating cities and crystalline forests. Its skies shimmered with orbital rings, each one a monument to conquest. The engagement ceremony would solidify the union, unless interrupted. Which it was. On the eve of the ceremony, Dominion warships loyal to Lord Valor, a powerful noble, blockaded the capital. He will not allow this, Lyriel said as alarms echoed through the palace spires. Adrian stood beside her on a balcony overlooking defensive fleets igniting their engines. Because I'm human? Because you are not controllable. That surprised him. I'm very controllable. She almost smiled, not in the way he desires. Valor's fleet opened fire. The night sky fractured into streaks of plasma and collapsing shields. Adrian had no combat training. He was a diplomat. But when palace security faltered and insurgent forces breached the lower levels, he did not hesitate. Evacuate to the inner sanctum, he urged. And you, she demanded. I'm staying. You are not trained. Neither am I willing to let your people see you run. That struck her harder than any weapon. He moved through corridors with stunned guards, helping civilians toward safety. He spoke calmly. Directed traffic. Pulled injured Aestra into cover. No weapons. No heroics. Just refusal to abandon. When Valor himself appeared in the throne chamber, armored in dark starlight, eyes blazing, Adrian stood between him and Lyriel. You would challenge Dominion tradition? Valor snarled. I would challenge fear, Adrian replied. You are nothing. Then why fear me? Valor lunged. Security beams struck the warlord from behind, Lyriel's loyal guard arriving at last. Valor fell, defeated. But it was Adrian's stance, unarmed, unyielding, that shifted the chamber's energy. The assembled nobles had seen it. A human who did not seek power. Only partnership. The ceremony resumed at dawn.